3 years ago, our organization reached a significant turning point when we shifted our charitable focus to mental health. In looking at the significant gaps in care that existed for those affected by operational stress injuries, we decided that we wanted to become an organization dedicated to developing and delivering innovative mental health programs for our veterans and their families. Programs that in most cases would not exist in this country if it were not for the investments made by Wounded Warriors Canada. It's a daily humbling reality for us and scary reality for us at the same time. Over the last 3 years, I'm proud to say that's exactly what we've done. From 2013 to date, we've invested upwards of $10 million in programming across a spectrum of care that is changing and saving lives and families across Canada. Of course, along this path, we've also came in contact with far too many of our first responders who had been sitting on the sidelines watching us develop programs for veterans, and finally coming forward to us and saying, is there any chance at any time we could benefit, our members could benefit from your programs? The answer, of course, was yes, but we had to do it in time. We had to invest clinically, get a program base that could support expansion of our scope and mission to include support for first responders, and that's exactly what we've done as part of that investment over the last 3.5 years, to a day where last year we were able to formally expand the scope and the mission of Wounded Warriors Canada to include support for first responders and their families right across the nation. There's a shared connection and appreciation of duty and service between our veterans and first responders. And when it comes to mental health and caring for those that service at home and abroad, we as an organization are here today to say that we have one message. We are in this together. That is going to be the message going forward for Wounded Warriors Canada. In this together. We'll be saying it everywhere we go, every one of these meetings, as part of our program expansion or continuation and delivery, that when it comes to mental health, we have to do this together. The overlap amongst the first responder population who have had members serve in the Canadian Armed Forces or deployed on operations in Afghanistan and other places is staggering. There is a connection, and we have to do our part to ensure that they, just as much as our veterans, know that the country is behind them and in support of them in their time of need. Today, in that vein, I guess that's probably why we're all, realize we're standing here, and hopefully not too cold, to announce something very special. We've got Wounded Warriors Canada to a point over the last number of years where we are able to develop and deliver operational stress injury programs in-house and deliver them fully funded by this charity. We have our national ambassadors, Chris and Catherine Linford here, who, after joining us just before Chris had retired, came to us with an idea about a program called COPE, Couples Overcoming PTSD Every Day. Let's make it happen. Absolutely, let's make it happen. That's exactly what we did. We invested nearly $1 million in COPE in the last couple of years, and we're proud of the results and the work that you have done and the team we've built. Evidence here today by the wonderful clinicians, our national clinical advisor, Tim Black, who will speak a little bit later. But it's about this team, this incredible team that has allowed us to do the work that we're doing right across Canada. Which of course leads us to the main reason we're standing here today, the announcement of our latest operational stress injury program, the Trauma Resiliency Program. It's an amazing thing. One of the things, there's been a big push across the country, of course, for ensuring that our families are supported alongside our ill and injured members. And that's absolutely true, and that's a major focus of our charity. The secondary side, of course, is that there's times when members just aren't yet ready to go to programming with a family member, and they need to be supported individually. That's exactly the genesis behind the Trauma Resiliency Program for individuals, veterans, and first responders. The Trauma Resiliency Program is a professionally facilitated program that will help veterans and first responders acquire the necessary tools for overcoming the natural and understandable effects of traumatic exposure based on a clear understanding of the physical and social effects of traumatic injury. We particularly like the name, Trauma Resiliency Program. One of the challenges we've felt in the space as we've gone across is that if someone had been diagnosed with an operational stress injury, PTSD, or some other injury associated with an OSI, that they were somehow broken, that their lives were forever over or changed with respect to being productive, healthy citizens of Canada. And we just don't agree with that at all. We think that taking the right programs, working with the right teams, working with your peers and your family, friends, brothers and sisters, that you can continue on a very productive life with an operational stress injury. And as many people have told me who have gone through that process, that they come out on the other side, in much better places in many different contexts of their lives after being treated and getting support for their operational stress injury. That's really important. And that's why we're proud of the name of it, having that resilience piece built into this whole thing. That's what we're trying to achieve here. That's okay. An operational stress injury is an honorable injury. Put your hand up, get the care you deserve, get on a roadmap to wellness and a path that fully supported by Canadians across the country, and continue being very productive Canadians. That's the genesis of this whole thing. That's what matters to us. That's really why when we were picking a name for it, we had to have the resiliency component built into it, so that everyone feels confident that that they're supported and they're going to come out of this hopefully better for it long term for the rest of their life. At this time, I from a background standpoint of the program itself, I'd like to call up Dr. Tim Black from the University of Victoria, who, as I mentioned, is our National Clinical Advisor, who, along with a colleague of his, clinically developed the Trauma Resiliency Program, to say a few words in depth about what our participants who are going to go through the program for the first time this weekend are going to experience.
Thanks, Scott. Oh, apologies for your ears. So Alex Sterling and I both work at the University of Victoria. We've been working on this for a while. And I think the question was, what's unique about this? As I've worked in trauma for about the last 20 years, oftentimes people talk about going to get help. Military standpoint, going to the base, it's the walk of shame. Going to get help for those things that, in my mind, require a tremendous amount of resilience just to live with. Just living with trauma requires resiliency, and those people who suffer from the effects know this to their core. So we're talking about building on resiliency, and one of the biggest things for me and what makes this unique is that trauma tends to isolate people. It makes people want to disappear, disconnect. As people, we don't survive and do very well when we're not connected. And part of becoming resilient is to be able to reconnect with people and to also be able to look at the work that you're doing to get better with pride. We don't look at people sideways who go to the gym after an injury to get strong again. They don't say to themselves, "Oh yeah, sorry, I went to the gym, I'm so embarrassed." They just say, "Yeah, I'm going back to the gym and I'm getting myself back in shape." And in my view, that's what's missing right now, especially when it comes to trauma. These are really understandable things. We know now what it takes to become traumatized following exposure. And doing the work of getting better following that, in my mind, should be something people could be proud about, tell their friends about, and encourage other people to do. I think if we as a society can do more of this, if we can embrace this, and society itself has a responsibility. Part of what traumatizes people is the social response that people get. Negative social responses are one of the biggest areas, I think, of growth in society for preventing trauma. And part of what we do in the Trauma Resiliency Program is build that in, addressing the shame, bringing the team together, because it is a team effort. The clinicians, the members who come, we all have to do it together. Addressing shame head on. In my mind, we know how to treat trauma, but if we don't talk about the shame of it, both as a society and on the program, it's not going to go where we need it to go. So I won't say too much more at this point, but we're really excited about the program with Wounded Warriors being our backers. They really are, and bringing in the first responder community in this together. To me, this extends beyond Wounded Warriors to society in general. If everybody comes together for this, then we can actually prevent trauma before it happens. So thank you to Scott, thank you to Wounded Warriors, and to my team. We're looking forward to it. We're heading out to Soup tonight to start this whole thing off, so thank you.
And just in conclusion for today in the announcement of the program is, of course, how our program is made possible at Wounded Warriors Canada. People always ask us time and time again, well, how much money do you get from the Government of Canada? The answer, of course, is we don't receive any money from the Government of Canada. And people seem astounded. And We're working to change that, well, that's for sure. But at the other side of it, of course, is the programs must go on. And we realize that and we want to be part of that. So there's a lot of things that go into raising millions of dollars a year in the charitable space. For anyone that's worked in the charitable nonprofit sector, it's not an easy task. It takes a really big team of hardworking, committed people, most of which are volunteers and supporters generally. And that is certainly the case in British Columbia, and specifically here on Vancouver Island, where there's a number of people here, for example, that have done our battlefield bike rides. And a community that got behind us specifically on our battlefield bike ride this past June, our Vimy 100 battlefield bike ride, was the city of Langford, through a connection from our friends Sherry and others. Sherry Lukens and others brought us in touch with the mayor, who will say a few words shortly, and brought a team together of, what was the total? How many members? 21 participants, cycling participants on our ride to Vimy. That ride raised over $750,000 for our programs in and of itself, with a huge response from Vancouver Island specifically. And when the connection was made from Sherry to Stu, come on up Stu, who stepped up, him and his community developers, to get behind the ride and sponsor the jerseys for our Vimy ride. I want to let Stu just say a few words about that, and then we'll have a short presentation after. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Scott. Thank you. Thanks, Scott. I just want to say that from a community perspective, it's easy for us to get behind causes, and I got to tell you, this is one of the best causes that a community can get behind. And I like what Scott said earlier. We got to do this together. We're in it together, and the governments need to be a part of what you guys are doing. It helps everybody heal. It helps for the therapy. Everything that we are doing, you have to see the support. The support has to be paramount when you're talking about a provincial and federal government. And I'm just very proud of my community when Sherry came to me and she said, hey, we just need some money to raise and get some shirts and stuff for you guys to ride over within Vimy. We made about 10 calls, 10 business guys in Langford. Within 10 minutes, we had enough money for Sherry to support her on her quest and her ask. I just want to say that there's a lot of people out there in Vancouver Island and across Canada that are probably there, willing and able to help wounded warriors. And I'm just telling you right now, get out there, get the ask, and let's make this a great movement. You guys are doing such a great job. You're helping so many people. It's one of the most important things you can do, is help people that are serving our communities, serving our country, and making sure that we look after them right from the beginning to the end. And I got to tell you, thank you very much for Wounded Warriors and everybody that's involved in it. Thank you.
Yeah. At this point, just call up all the BBR 17 riders, if I could, to the podium area. Come on up, and we got what happened. So the jersey that Sherry is wearing right there was probably, Garneau tells us, is one of the most successful jerseys they've ever designed for the company. We certainly agree. And of course, the City of Langford, as the presenting jersey sponsor, is recognized there as well. So on behalf of Wounded Warriors Canada, we decided how can we properly thank you, Stu, and the City of Langford, and the developers that came forward to help us with this. And what we did was we had every rider sign the jersey at the end of BBR right after we finished at Vimy Ridge, and had it framed and presented to you, Stu, and the City of Langford. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Jerry. Everyone in, let's get a picture of this. Awesome. We'll make sure this hangs in our city hall when you walk in the door. This will be one of the first things you guys see. And again, thank you very much for everything that you guys are all doing. And I'm going to tell you right now, cities like ours across this country are going to get on this bandwagon. It's a good bandwagon to be on. So again, thank you very much.